Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Crimer Beer House for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. The beer house was started in 1982 by the Crimer family. Since that time, they have become a Cincinnati favorite. If you're looking for an incredible meal and an incredible setting, you have to try Crimer's Beer House down on Route 128 in Cleves, Ohio.
Hey, Strong Dads, this is Merle Hutchinson and
Kyle Crawford.
Hey, Kyle, how are you this morning?
I'm doing all right. Just got off work, so you know.
Good deal. Man, I'll tell you, we already goofed around enough today that we were losing our mind just talking and teasing each other. So I'm hoping we can pull it together and put together a good show.
That's right. That's right.
Especially this show. This is a show that, it definitely plays close to me, and so I'll be sharing some of my experience through this show, and you're going to be able to share some of your experience through your work world.
Yeah, sure.
So today's show is about dealing with mental illness. It's about dealing with post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD. The bottom line is it's about dealing with things that hold us back and what our responsibility is to those things, to our family, to our health, to get it right. So this is going to be a show that I think has an opportunity to have a good shelf life because people need to listen to this stuff and they need to implement and they need to take charge and they need to get back out and play full tilt. Prior to actually recording and hitting the go button today, Kyle, you and I had a conversation about what it is to be a man, how I want to be a man. And both you and I are fairly competitive.
Oh, yeah.
And, if I'm going to do something, I want to win, or at least I want to be performing at my top level.
Absolutely.
And, I used to run 5Ks and stuff like that, and I was never that fast, but I did not like to participate in a 5K if I wasn't fit. Because I want to put it down. When I'm done, I want to say I didn't leave anything. For sure. I didn't hold back.
Speaking of competition, what was your best time in the 5K?
My best time was a 17:33.
All right, I got you beat. I'm glad.
You're faster than that?
I was in high school.
There's no way coming off the couch. What's your best time? I want to hear this.
16:42.
Whoa, that's pretty good.
I was in high school.
You weighed like 113 pounds or something, didn't you?
140, okay.
That's great. No, that's great. So, that's talented enough. Usually when we can get guys that start to run in the 16s, especially at the high school level, we're like, hey, that's pretty good. So
I just wanted to make sure I knew I could beat you.
Yeah.
That's something in my life.
Maybe we'll arm wrestle at some point or something.
I'll definitely lose that one.
So, really the point is, are we performing at our best? And as a man, we are called to perform, and we are in earlier shows we talked about our roles that we perform in, being a protector and a provider and a teacher and a spiritual leader, and these are all the areas that we perform in. And if we aren't able to be our best, then we're coming up short.
Yeah.
We talked about the idea of following certain football teams, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I've given up on following teams that continually lose because I'm tired of them not doing what they need to do to be the best.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, just that on and off duty type, on and off the field type stuff where it's like put forth the effort because the on the field it'll show that idea of not being okay with mediocre. Like you have to want to have to perform at the highest level, and there's things you have to do in order to get to that.
Yeah, and again, the best does not mean always winning. The best means giving everything I have, and the W's will take care of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think sometimes we shortchange ourselves on everything that we could do. Yeah. I look at, especially in the world of sports these days, I mean, guys go above and beyond what happened in any other previous generation to be their best. They get personal trainers. They get personal nutritionists. They spend extra time doing this, that, and the other. I mean, there's all kinds of different things they do because they're trying to get just one click higher at being competitive. And, what if we did that in our homes?
Yeah.
What if we did that in our marriage?
Yeah.
What if we did that, in today's case, our health?
Yeah.
Just our mental health. So today's show, I think, is just got a lot of merit to it in a lot of different ways. We want to challenge you, quit settling for where you're at right now, and know that there's more. But guess what? You have to do the work to get to that.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of work, we better get some support for the work we're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're super excited. Today, our Strong Dads podcast is going to be brought to you guys by the Crimer's Beer House. Thanks so much for sponsoring Strong Dads podcast. The Crimer's Beer House started in 1982 by the Crimer family, and since then, they're definitely a Cincinnati favorite. So if you guys are looking for an incredible meal, an incredible setting, definitely go out down there on 128 and check out Crimer's Beer House.
All right. Thank you, Crimer's Beer House. Also, we would like to thank Mansfield Insurance. We want to thank Jim Mansfield and his crew for being a sponsor for the Strong Dads podcast. Mansfield Insurance was started in 1981, and they've been dedicated to serving the individuals and businesses in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So one of the things that separates Mansfield from the rest is not just selling a product, but servicing that product. And so for all your insurance needs, contact Mansfield Insurance. All right, so in particular, we're going to talk today about I'm going to share some of my story, and I've shared this testimony before. And Linda and I, we do Rock Solid Radio as our podcast together, and I shared a little bit of my testimony. And I, without hogging up the entire show, I want to share a little bit of my testimony. One, because if somebody else can connect to that, then that's huge to me. But two, to help people steer through how do you walk through this type of situation. And being paralyzed by it and stuck is a desperate, depressing feeling.
Sure.
And so if we can help somebody move through that, then we would like to.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about anxiety and depression for this moment. About 28 years ago for me, my wife and I, Linda, we recently were married, been married for a couple of years. We were doing our thing. I was running those 5Ks every weekend, doing triathlon, always felt strong, felt healthy. I was working on getting my master's. I was teaching at a high school. We're at East Central High School. And so a lot of things were just going well for us. And Linda was pregnant, and soon she had our first son. And about a week after she had our first son, Nick, I was just exhausted and tired and just burned the candle at both ends.
Sure.
And was driving home and started to feel like I was having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And I was like, what in the world is going on here? And I was coming home from Cincinnati. And I got to a point where I just felt like I was getting ready to pass out. So I actually pulled off the interstate. And when I pulled off the interstate, I thought it was all over.
Yeah.
I mean, my chest was killing me. I couldn't see the road very well, and I literally pulled over, and the last thing I thought to do was open my window and put my arm outside the window that maybe somebody, this was before cell phone. So
okay, that's a couple years ago.
Yeah, just a couple years ago. And so the next thing that I remember is a squad, fire truck, everybody kind of coming around surrounding me and then pulling me out of my truck and giving me fluids, getting me together and all of this. And so they brought me back around. Basically, I didn't die or anything like that,
Sure.
but I lost consciousness.
Yeah.
And so I checked out okay. Everything seemed to be good, and went on our way. The next day, I had the same thing happen.
Wow.
We were going to church, and I had that same that pain in the chest, that losing that awareness and focus on what was in front of me, and it freaked me out.
Yeah, I bet.
Right. And so we were at church, and I actually was holding our son, and I handed my son to Linda. I said, "You got to hold him. I have to get out of here."
Yeah.
And so I walked out of church. Anyway, to kind of fast forward, I started having these episodes on a daily basis.
Wow.
They were happening when I was driving. They were happening when I was at school trying to teach, when I was at restaurants. And I honestly didn't, I was like, what in the world? I was in the ER a couple of times. I was starting to go to the doctor, like, what is going on? And, it was, back then you didn't hear about anxiety. You heard about a general anxiety. Oh, I'm anxious about my game today or something. But I had never heard about a panic attack or anything like that. And my doctor would just say, you know what, you've been running like crazy. You just need to take some time off.
Sure.
So we even tried taking some time off, a couple days here and there, and just really did not do much for me. This went on for probably about a year and a half.
Wow.
And my world was getting slowly just shrinking down. I did not want to be out of the house. I didn't want to go to restaurants. I didn't want to travel anywhere. I started to be somewhat just reclusive. Even when we did go out, it was a chore. I mean, like I had to get my head ready just to go out, just to do anything. And Linda was terrific through the whole thing. She was like, I'm not sure what's going on, but, whatever I need to do, tell me, But I didn't know what was going on. Finally, after almost 2 years of battling this and just feeling like I'm losing my mind, I started to read about anxiety. And I started connecting the dots. And I had a very bad incident driving to South Carolina on vacation. Just about ruined the trip for our family. And after that incident, I told Linda, I said, if this is the way life is, I really don't want any part of it. This is not the life. This is not who I've ever been.
Sure.
And so I was in a desperate state. And we both agreed that as soon as we got home from that vacation, we were going to go back to the doctor, and we were just going to not leave until we had some answers.
Right.
And that's essentially what we did. We went back to the doctor that I'd always gone to, and he was a good man. And when he saw kind of the desperation in me and the intensity of that, he was like, okay, I was hoping we weren't going to have to go this way, but I think we need to medically treat you.
Right.
And at that point, I actually started on medication, antidepressant at the time. And that was hard too. I didn't not want to be on medications, especially anything for your mind. That would be crazy. What, are you sick or what, And so the journey really began for me. And the journey back to health was more than just stopping panic attacks. It was recognizing that I have a mental illness, that I'm not who I want to be when I'm ill like this. I'm not the dad, the husband, the teacher, the coach. I'm none of those people at the level that I want to perform.
Sure.
And that was the driving force for me. Sitting around doing nothing was just not acceptable, but I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And so I really started on kind of the recovery of doing some cognitive therapy to try to figure out, okay, well, how does my head get moving down these anxious pathways, staying with my medication to make sure that I was creating the most stable mental environment that I could so that I could be healthy. Simple things like eating properly and sleeping were huge. I mean, It doesn't take much to offset the chemical imbalance, especially when it's very frail to begin with. And so I found that those things were critical. Drinking alcohol, I stopped doing completely because it was like that really messed with me.
Yeah.
And so the pathway started. And one of the things that was critical to me healing was admitting I had a mental illness and not hiding from that. And then really just start seeking out guidance, just like being hungry, reading, praying. And in large part, this is really what drove Linda and I to a whole new level of faith that we had never experienced before.
Sure.
Because we didn't know what to do. I mean, I was dropped to my knees. I wasn't the man I wanted to be, and I would just cry out like, Lord, help me. I can't do this.
Right.
And that was very humbling because up to that point, I've been able to do everything I wanted to do.
Right. That takes a lot for a man to come to that point.
Yeah,
you want to fix everything yourself, and just that idea of humbling yourself. to something so much bigger.
Yeah, we oftentimes don't think we're arrogant, right? Or we're self-righteous, but that's that pride part that came through that. I was just like, no, I'll figure it out, no, and you just keep pushing it down the road a little farther. And, the blessing was I was done pushing down the road. I didn't know what to do. Yeah. And that's when I made the statement, if this is the kind of life we're going to have, I'm not interested. So I don't regret that either, because I think that that's part of the process of falling to your knees, of humbling yourself. And once you humble yourself, you become coachable. You become teachable. Yeah. And these are critical to us becoming better men. Yep. We talked at the top of the show about the idea of guys are going into weight rooms and they're lifting more and they're asking for more help. And it takes you being coachable to grab that. And so, the beauty of it is that I have grown through that. I am healthy. I continue to help people daily. Especially men that come to me, they either hear my story or they somehow find out some connection, or I hear anxiety in them, and when I'm coaching people, hey, I can tap in and start to direct. So the point being is that it was critical for me to get back on all 8 cylinders, 100%, being able to max out. That was critical for me to be able to fight again. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of a synopsis of my story, and that's we share that for the idea of what kind of struggles are you men struggling with. Kyle, we talked a little bit before the show, and I want to tap into this because you work in a world far more traumatic and dramatic than what I work in. You're a fireman paramedic. And you just shared a story when you came in today about something that I think is pretty traumatic. And you don't have to give the details because I know it's still unfolding. But PTSD is very much anxiety based.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what do you guys see in your world and with the men that you're with?
Yeah. So the idea of PTSD is something that's fairly new as far as recognizing and knowing that is a real thing in the fire service. The amount of resources that are out there for us now are crazy. But yeah, it's just the daily stuff that we see. We kind of, it is not uncommon. In fact, it's on a regular basis that I will see someone that has died. I would venture to say that darn near every shift I encounter that. And that varies from someone, of age that has died from just a heart attack, or, it's just kind of their time, all the way up to shootings and stabbings and you name it. I know in an earlier episode we shared, I talked a little bit about the mass shooting that took place in Dayton. This year for the city of Dayton, the fire and police side, we've seen a lot, and have had a chance to kind of deal with that. And we all kind of deal with major traumatic stuff like that in different ways. So yeah, it's just a daily thing that we encounter. The positive aspect of that is the guys that I work with, I spend a third of my life with them. So I deal with that stuff with them. If you know a fireman, most of us are pretty blunt. We're pretty much say kind of how it is. And because of that, we have a tendency to kind of share things around the kitchen table. That's kind of the focal point of darn near every firehouse, I'd say, in the country is that kitchen table. And that's a lot of times where we come and share our feelings. I know darn near everything there is to know about the guys I work with, and it's a positive thing because I'm so comfortable with them. I share my life with them, whether that's the dark, the dirty, how I'm feeling about that run we just made. Again, this year with the city of Dayton, it's been really bad. We've had a terrible year. We've had the tornadoes, the mass shooting. As of recently, we had one of our own firefighters killed himself, committed suicide. And I actually just found out recently he was dealing with some PTSD from a run that he went on, and that's kind of new information that's kind of come out, and it's very it's a real thing, and again it's as of recently it's definitely become a focal point of the fire service because the fire service, we lose about 100 firemen a year to line of duty deaths. And those line of duty
across the country,
yeah. Correct. And those numbers do not include things like PTSD. one of my coworkers that killed himself, a few weeks ago, that is not going to be included in the line of duty death, but it is such a real thing.
Yeah.
It is a line of duty death in reference to he did that because of things he was going through because of the job that we have.
Yeah.
And
so let me ask you, because I think this is part as a man. We use this phrase a lot. Just suck it up. Just suck it up and deal with it. And so within your world, and that was part of me, my first year of dealing with what I was going through, the phrase kind of in my head was just deal with it. Just deal with it. Just suck it up, whatever. Yeah. At what point do you guys see that you have to go beyond just sucking it up? In other words, he's sucking it up, but he's not operating full tilt. So what do you guys do? How do you point that out? Like, okay, we need to quit telling him to suck it up because there's something more going on here.
Yeah, and that idea of not saying that is definitely, again, it's a newer kind of transition that's in the fire service now. We still have guys on the department that still feel that way, that are the older generation that have been raised up in that. Just suck it up. But I would definitely say that the new generation of firemen, it's definitely, we know it's an issue. We know it's something we have to go about it. We have to be very aggressive with it. And, I guess the accountability really falls on me as a member of my crew, that if I see something, if I see one of the guys that I spend a third of my life with, if I see them doing things or not performing at that top peak level, that I should bring that up, that should be a discussion. With my schedule the way it is, last night waking up 2-3 times past midnight, my sleep schedule is all out of whack. And just making sure that when my 2 days off, that I'm prioritizing my personal health, that I need to make sure that I am getting my sleep, that I am making sure that I am eating correct, because at the firehouse, there's no such thing as a hot meal. There's no such thing as a full night's sleep. And that idea that, just like we were talking about, with the whole idea of mental health, that there's so much more that goes into it than just, your emotions. Like, there's so much that goes into that. And in the fire service, we're not an exception to that, it definitely plays a part, making sure that when I leave here, I'm going to go home and I'm going to try and get a couple hours of rest, because I know that I have to deal with my kids, and if I'm not in a good place, that they're gonna be the ones that see the negative side of some of the stuff that I've dealt with for the last 24 hours on duty.
Yeah, man, that's just great stuff in terms of trying to work our way through this. I want to share just one stat. I had a bunch of stats to run through, but there's really only one that jumps out at me, especially pertaining to our topic today for our strong dads. 75% of all suicides are males. I don't think we need to say anything else. No. 75% of all suicides are male. That's a male problem.
For sure.
It doesn't mean women don't struggle with that, but it means men struggle and we do not do it effectively.
Yeah.
75% suicides are male. I want to just make sure we round this out a little bit differently so that we understand what anxiety and depression look like, because it does look a little bit different for each person and even at different times. Yep. So you might say, well, I don't have that anxiety sort of thing. Well, anxiety and depression are often coupled together.
Sure.
But I'm going to throw another one in there too, because this is what I see, especially with competitive men. With competitive men, I also see anger.
Oh, yeah.
Anger is also masquerading as under that umbrella of anxiety and depression. I even saw it with myself when I was in a stressful situation that I didn't feel like I had the ability to get through. I didn't have the focus and confidence and things to draw through. I would have more of a withdrawal from the situation. All right, there's fight or flight mechanisms that we have, and it would be more of the flight. But if I was in a situation that I knew I had the resources, I would go to fight. I mean, I was like, all of a sudden my temper would go. I would get angry. I would get frustrated. And so you please be aware that this anxiety and depression, and I will add to the mix this anger, that we see guys getting hot-headed, losing their temper, trying to pound their fists a little bit more to try to stay in control. These are also, when we see this getting to an extreme, and I think that's what we need to make sure we understand, an occasional anxiousness, depressiveness, or anger is not what we're talking about. It's when we see it just prevailing through the day and the work and the family. Yep. When it becomes the topic at the dinner table, at the fireman's table. Yeah. When it becomes your topic, okay, now it's time. We're not performing to 100%.
Yeah. And just that idea that anger, when it does come through, when it rears up his nasty face because of the anxiety and the depression, that idea that if you want to continue to say anxiety is not a mental health issue, that in itself, because there is that chemical imbalance that's going on, that's the result of it sometimes for some people. We were saying, everyone deals with it a little different, but if your way of dealing with your anxiety and your depression and your PTSD is through anger, that in itself solidifies the fact that it is a mental health issue. Right,
very much. So we're gonna go through some advice in terms of, well, how would I help a guy out going through this situation? And so one of the things I want to dismiss right off the bat is, especially as a Christian, and when I was first going down this road of trying to figure myself out, I was praying like crazy, right? And I was getting angry at God because I'm like, man, I'm on my knees praying all the time, and you're not taking this away from me. And so one of the frustrations that we get is we think we will just pray it away. And God wants us to be active. Oh, yeah. He wants us to be active. We are his hands and feet, even for ourselves, to take these matters, to trust that he's going to bring us through on the right path. But just praying it away oftentimes is not the remedy. And I'm not trying to diminish prayer. Okay, I'm not. But we have people that pray and then sit and they wait. Yeah. And my idea behind this is, and what I learned is, I need to keep praying, but I need to pray for what to do. Yeah. Where to go and seek the resources. And so I think it's very important that we don't try to think that, well, if we just sit around and pray this thing away, we'll be good. Yep. Right? And so there are some things that we want to look at. And the things are, the very first thing I want to look at is the idea of you got to look in the mirror. Yeah. All right? So I challenge each man out there, all of our strong dads, look in the mirror. Right? What do you see? What are your behaviors? I'll tap in even farther. What's your wife see when she looks in the mirror at you? Are you the person that she married? We see this all the time with people with PTSD. We see their spouse say, "You're not the man I married." Yeah. Okay, that is a huge sign. Right. So we've got to recognize, I'm not seeing the same person in the mirror, and humbling ourselves to say, okay, what's different?
Right. And I would definitely say, just being, kind of transparent, I would definitely admit that when I got into the fire service and who I am now, 12 years later, I'm not the same person. I know I'm not. I look at the world completely different. I have a different perspective on day-to-day stuff. How I perceive death is radically different.
I keep going with it, but I want to know what's different.
Because it is such a norm in my day-to-day life, the significance of death has definitely, the volume has turned down. I don't see death nearly like I used to. I mean, because
death doesn't shock you anymore.
Exactly, it doesn't. And death is a very permanent thing. And to me, because when you see something over and over on a daily basis, it doesn't seem so permanent to me. And that's definitely something that I'm aware of, and I understand that I know that that's something that I feel, and that my emotions and my kind of mindset are there. And it's something that, it's a daily struggle, knowing that death is very permanent. I'll be honest, I haven't cried in probably 10 plus years. Yeah. And that's not a good thing. And I don't want to make light of that. It's just, it's something that I deal with. I always joke with my wife that my tear ducts are no longer there. I don't cry. And again, I don't want to make light of it because it's very significant. But it's something that, because of my job, I know the last 12 years have radically affected my mindset. And, I don't think it's gotten to that point of PTSD as far as where I'm at, because I have outlets. I got a small group that I share my life with. I share everything with my wife. So I have outlets, But yeah, it's definitely still a real thing that I deal with.
That's great insight. I've talked to guys in special forces and stuff, and they talk about the more they see their bandwidth for emotion becomes so wide that there's no emotion that upsets them. So versus, you and I have like, okay, well, maybe, and you're even describing your bandwidth is becoming very wide, and so nothing really rattles you, but something should rattle you, and I can see how this could affect a marriage, because if your wife is upset about something and you're not really tuned in at the moment with being conscious of how you're handling emotion, you might totally minimize what she is emotionally feeling, and that's not going to run well with her.
No,
it
doesn't.
It doesn't. So we got some experience here. What a great point. And so again, you got to look in the mirror. You got to realize, okay, I'm not the same guy. I appreciate very much that you said that. Like, I'm not the same guy, just from my work experience. Okay, and there is value in that too. Okay, so let's not say, well, you should be crying at every corner. No, there is a job to be done. But putting things in perspective is the important part here. Like, okay, wait, am I so cold that I don't feel what I should be feeling? So, but at some degree, part of this is survival. And so we do have to be a little bit harder or colder.
And the benefit to the way I am is when my girls get hurt and my girls are screaming and crying, I'm like, it's really not that bad. Trust me, it's really not that bad.
We've teased about that before. You are cold-hearted. You know what? Okay, so the next thing I try to get men to do is, after they look in the mirror and start to see, am I different? Okay, the next thing is we try to go back and look at patterns. Okay, so what kind of patterns are starting to come out? Like, I will see broken relationships. I will see frequent job changes, or more frequent than they were before. I will see temper outburst, or I will see withdrawal. Like, I've noticed over the last year that I'm not seeing you around at these events anymore that I used to see you at all the time. So to actually start to look at patterns, I think, are really good, because basically how we spend our time doesn't lie. Okay? So getting people to look at those patterns.
I mean, with that, what are things that maybe before you kind of had this anxiety, depression, PTSD, what are things that never set you off and now all of a sudden they are setting you off? I know if I had a long night and I come home and my girls don't want to put their jacket on, that idea that sometimes I'm quick to anger, and that idea that, why is that? And it has to. I have to know that it's because of what I saw the last 24 hours. What I went through, which is a beauty. I live in Cincinnati and I work in Dayton. I have an hour drive home, and for it truly is the best part of. I get off at 7 a.m. and I don't see my girls till 8:20, 8:30, and that is fantastic for me, because for the first 20 to 25 minutes driving home, I sit in silence, and I just I got to decompress a little bit, because I know the first two people I'm going to see are my girls, and I don't want to get into that point where it is I know that those patterns do exist for me, that if I've had a long night and then I'm anxious about getting home, I got XYZ to do in the day, and then I get home and I don't have that time to really truly decompress, that those patterns do kind of rear their face, where it's like, Ava, just put your jacket on, I don't care. And I snap at her, where if I have that time to really decompress, because I've recognized that those patterns do exist for me, that I need to take that time to really evaluate, my actions.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. So recognizing who you are in that pattern. The other thing that I learned with myself is the next step here is when you start to see that maybe something's not right, or you're not the healthy person you want, I always say, don't deny your genetics. When I was going through my challenges with anxiety and depression, at the time that I was doing it, I was also getting my master's in counseling. And one of the projects I had to do is we had to do a genogram, which is basically like a family tree that traces patterns of genes that go through the generations. And so that was something that we just had to do just so that we could see patterns in our genealogy. Wow, that was an eye-opener for me. I did both sides of my family, my mom's side and my dad's side. And the amount on my mom's side, the amount of anxiety and depression was, I mean, there's like a hard line running right through that family. Wow. My mom, my grandma, my uncles, a great aunt. So all of these people running, but back in that day, it was kind of like, well, that was a crazy aunt, okay, or that was the one we never saw, you know. On my dad's side, alcoholism like crazy. Yeah. And again, alcohol is oftentimes just the medicine that we use for anxiety and depression. Yeah. Right? And I mean, hey, you know what? Nothing better after a hard day, go get a drink. Yeah. Or if I feel like, I'm just done with life for a little bit, I'm going to drink me a few beers here. And so I saw a lot of alcohol use on my dad's side. I saw a lot of anxiety, depression on my mom's side. And that was an eye-opener for me to go, okay, all right, so I'm in the bloodline here. It's time to own it. Yeah. It's time to own it and not deny it. So that was big for me to recognize my genetics.
Yeah, that's good stuff there. Just some more stuff that we definitely want to have our listeners walk away with. And this is really big for me. Is surround yourself with people you trust and can give sound advice. This is something that if I didn't have, I probably would be in a completely different place. Mm-hmm. The idea that as men, we are competitive. We'll find a good team. Find guys mm-hmm. that you can trust. Find other men that you can trust. You can have them hold you accountable. Get your wife involved. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want somebody to truly hold you accountable for maybe those patterns that you have recognized, like, what a better person than someone that spends every day with you. Yeah. I know the guys that I work with, they know me. I spend a third of my life, like I said. So if I do something out of the ordinary, they're going to call me out on it. And I want them to. That's good. Yep. That's good accountability. Those are guys on my team that believe in me and want the best for me. Because you have to have those people. You have to have people that believe in you and want the best for you, because those are the people that it may be hard to hear, but they're going to speak truth to you.
Yeah. And it's... for me in that situation, I couldn't have had a better spouse, because Linda's a go-getter. She herself is competitive, and she's kind of a taskmaster of a lot of different things. And she had every reason to say, get your act together. Sure. Just figure it out, because we got life to live here. Right. And she never once approached me that way. She approached me more with, I don't really know what you're feeling, but let me know what you need. Yeah. And so that's how we walk through it. To this day, we still use that, because my anxiety has not 100% gone away. Sure. I still have, throughout a course of a year, I will have some incidences, and I will tell her, you know what, I'm kind of in a funk right now. Yeah. I'm kind of in a bad place. And she'll say, just let me know what you need. Yeah. And to know, even if I don't have to tap into her to help me, to know that she's there is just huge. Yeah. And so that's a critical part. Surround yourself with people that can speak truth to you, and that you trust that you're going to listen to them. Yeah,
that listening part is big, because people can say things that in where it's coming from is coming from a good place, but if you don't accept it as someone who wants the best for you, it's going to be hard to take that.
Yeah, no, you're in the defensive mode all the time. Yeah, and that's that pride and everything else that we talked about earlier. Yeah, we want to talk about the idea of when you recognize you're in these stressful situations, you've got to take care of yourself. And you had talked about it. You work this crazy night shift. For me, I found when I was under these stressful situations and dealing with the anxiety, I had to be very conscious of sleep and food and exercise. And just, I used to pride myself on getting minimal sleep and just run. Yeah. And my dad used to warn me all the time, you burn the candle at both ends. You burn the candle at both ends. He used to say, and I really just, it ran right off my back. Yeah. I think I had a pride of how much I thought I could do in a day or a week. Yeah. And I found out really that he was so right, because I didn't give my body a chance to replenish itself. Your body's got to heal every day.
Absolutely.
And whether it's chemically in the brain or whether it's muscles, you've got to heal. Yep. And so to start to take care of yourself is critical.
Yeah, and you going back to having people that you trust, and surround yourself. I know for me, just talking about sleep, when I get home, especially on the weekends when Jenny is home, she allows me that time that she doesn't bug me for the good part of the morning into the early afternoon, because she knows the importance of my overall health. Like if I don't get that sleep, those patterns that I was talking about they're gonna come up, and she knows that. So she allows me. There's guys I work with that their wives don't allow them to go home and get some rest, and man, they are angry.
Yeah. It's a matter of time before you just become a not very good person or a healthy person.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. The other thing that we talk about is, okay, so once you start to recognize that maybe some things aren't quite right, it's time to start gaining knowledge. Yeah. This naturally happened to me because I couldn't get answers. I couldn't figure it out on my own. So I started naturally digging in, again, before the internet here. So I was going to bookstores, going to libraries. I was reading magazine articles. I was talking to people. I was trying to seek out as much knowledge because, even though a lot of the knowledge is empty or doesn't really help, you get little nuggets of things that you go, and I'll never forget the one book that I grabbed. I started reading about anxiety and panic attacks, and before you know it, I had practically that whole book highlighted. And when it was speaking to me. And I took that book to that final doctor appointment that when I came back from our vacation that I was telling you about earlier, I took that book in and I showed the doctor all of these highlights, and I said, that is me right there. Yeah. I no longer had to try to describe how I was feeling. I had some documentation that supported, like, okay, this is exactly how I feel right here. And, of course, then the book had lots of bits of knowledge to help me figure out, well, what do you do with these things? Right. So,
and just that idea that you were seeking, advice from a resource. I know for me at work, we have our peer support group. So going through stuff that's going on at work, we have other guys who are firemen, who are police officers that have gone through a little bit of a training and know kind of the ins and outs of stuff that we deal with, and the idea that they can speak truth because they've been there.
Yeah.
That they understand, that they can relate to some of the stuff we're going through. Just that knowledge of what they be, from the outside looking in, they can speak some knowledge that I can't see because right. I'm in it.
Yeah, and I speak to that all the time. People come to me because there's like, man, I heard your story, and so they speak knowledge, or I can speak some knowledge and some wisdom only from my own experience.
Yeah.
The next thing we talk about is I know, and this is really hard because if you're in the beginning stages of these struggles, whether it's PTSD or it's anxiety, depression, anger, whatever it is, this does not make sense at all. But just hear me out here. There is a blessing here, right? There is a blessing, and the blessing for me and my family has been huge. It altered our pathway of our relationship with Christ,
sure.
Our way of living, our lifestyle. Our lifestyle is very different now than it was 30 years ago. And I'm not saying what we were doing 30 years ago was totally wrong and bad or evil, but it wasn't connected to Christ. And so now it's like we really have a different filter in view. And so there's a scripture that I just want to read because it speaks just to this, Romans 8:28. And you know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. God works through all these situations. You can sit and you can cry about it and complain, but if you just get out of your own way sometimes, God will reveal the blessings in things.
And that's truth.
So what starts off as a tragedy today could be life-changing and rewarding down the road. So don't dismiss that.
For sure. That's good stuff.
We're coming down to our last couple things here. We want to wrap it up. So you never stop working. I told you before, my anxiety is very much at bay, but it's not gone.
Sure.
It's not gone. I continue on medication, on a dose of medication, and I continue to try to eat right and sleep right and do these things right. Because as at the very beginning of the show we just talked about, I want to be 100%.
Yeah.
Like one big reason why I don't go out and get drunk is because there's nothing worse than not being 100% the next day.
Yeah.
It's like there's enough things to make me feel like crap. I don't want any more. And so that whole idea of you constantly work, you keep at it, you stay with it.
Which that is us here as Strong Dads. Like we're not we're not advocates of just throwing your hands up and just, this
No.
is where I'm at. I'm going to go, drink myself, to oblivion for the next week. Like we're big advocates of working through it. We all, as dudes, we all have personal struggles. We all have stuff we're going through. We have anxiety, depression, PTSD, but we can't just, we have to remember that we have those issues, and then we got to go to work. Like, it's one thing to sit around and bitch and complain to all your friends, like, but let's do something about it. Like, start working on it.
Yeah, let's get busy with it. So the other thing is the idea of accepting the condition, okay? Accepting the condition does not mean you throw up your hands and you give up. Accepting it means you're now coachable.
Yep.
Okay, that's a big difference here. So when I say I had to accept that I had a mental illness, I didn't say, okay, well, I have a mental illness, and as if it now becomes an excuse. Yeah. No, that's BS. It's not an excuse.
Sure.
All right. I accept it, so now that makes me coachable and teachable to figure out how we're going to walk through the healing process.
Yep.
And so I think that's critical that you understand, you accept your condition, and then you start on the process of healing.
Yeah. And by accepting, it completely changes your attitude. And I think your attitude is a big proponent, big part of this, that once you've accepted it, your attitude has to change. Like, you have to be an attitude ready to work. Like, if you've accepted you have an issue, but you're still not in that place where you're ready to work, like, your attitude has to switch.
Yeah. If everybody else has to still change around you for you to be happy, you got a problem. Good luck with that solution too.
For sure.
The last thing, and we're going to wrap it up here. This is a conscious choice of being a victim or a victor, and that really continues to just permeate my own thinking in my life. Since then I've had lots of other issues in life, whether it's be neck surgeries or body hurts or job rejections. Everything now you go through, you get a punch in the gut and you have to make a decision. Am I going to live under blames and excuses and point fingers, or am I going to embrace this and learn from it and become better? Yeah. And so we have an opportunity to become either a victim or a victor. And for us as strong dads, there's no way we're going to tolerate being victims. Yep. You took a punch. It wasn't good. It hurt. Now, what are you going to learn so that we can move on?
Yep.
All right. So we really want you to look at, are you playing victim card here, or are you working to be the victor?
Yep. So yes, I mean, it's definitely it's time for some self-evaluation, because just like you're saying, I mean, it is your choice. You can sit back and play that victim card, but we obviously wouldn't recommend that. Definitely take some time to do some self-evaluation, to look in the mirror, to accept the fact that stuff is going on, to surround yourself with good people that are going to give you good sound advice, understanding that the blessings that are going on because of what you're dealing with, you can get to speak truth, into other people, never forgetting, but start working. Like, let's go to work, and just be the victor, be above what you're going through, change that attitude, making sure that we're going about this, using sound advice, making sure we're leaning on Christ through all this, through everything we're going through. Like, God has to be the focal of solutions, because that he will fix our problems. He calls us to action. We're expected to kind of play a part in it,
right.
But seeking Christ through it.
He uses all things for his good, and so that doesn't mean you're always comfortable. That doesn't mean you're getting what you want. What has happened to our family has been incredibly good because of the struggle that I went through. Yeah. It altered the pathway that we're on. It's the reason why we're doing this show today. Sure. I would have never had the seed in my mind to do this, okay? But the idea of, no, I want to be on my game. I want to help dads. I want to dig in deep. I want families to succeed. This is part of my priority. And I stem a great bit of that back to that illness, because I wasn't close to 100% back in those days. All right. Well, man, I hope you find our show today, our talk, being helpful. I know it went a little long for you guys who are used to your 30, 35 minutes, but suck it up. It's good stuff, man. Yep. It's good stuff. We want you guys to be the strongest dads that you can be. If you have any questions or thoughts, you can contact me at hutch@rocksolidfamilies.org. You can also call us at any time at 812-576 7625. So give me a call. Love to meet up with you and see what we could do to help you out. Kyle, you want to close us out? Oh, we better say thank you to our sponsors. I almost blew that.
I was getting ready to say,
almost blew it. Do it.
But yeah, hey, we're just super excited that we have sponsors that are behind us. And definitely wanted to give a shout out to Crimer Beer House. Thanks so much for getting behind Strong Dads. Go check out Crimer's Beer House down on 128. Been down there since 1982. We definitely appreciate you guys.
All right, so we want to thank you for listening, and go out there and be strong dads. Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson from Strong Dads. Strong Dads wants to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency in Bright, Indiana for sponsoring today's Strong Dads podcast. Established in 1981, the Mansfield Insurance Agency has been dedicated to the individuals and businesses in Bright, Indiana, serving clients throughout Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky.